is quiet in this airport tonight. Well, hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be flying to the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. It's going to be a night flight, so things are going to be dark. I've already brought to you the approach to SeaTac coming in on the right-hand side of the aircraft. Today I'll be sitting on the left-hand side of the aircraft. We'll be flying in towards the south. I did check the wind, of course, before the flight. The wind is coming from the south, so we're going to head towards the south, towards the 16s, and I'm hoping for a great flight, so come on along with me. Okay, pre-flight planning. Let's talk about my seat selection tonight. For my flight from Spokane to Seattle, I am sitting on the left-hand side of the aircraft. It is an Embraer 175. I am in the single seat. Again, I do want to bring you the view on the left-hand side when we're coming into the 16s.
Welcome to the 60s. Rotundas aren't all that common in modern airports, but this terminal has got some history to it, and along with it comes a vast circular space that leads to two fingers of gates. Since it's late at night, the fingers were practically deserted.
I'm awaiting the arrival of my aircraft. My aircraft tonight is a round-robin flight. It started in Seattle, worked its way over to Spokane, and it's going to go right back to Seattle again. It's operating under the same flight number on both legs. I'm trying to spot the inbound, but all I see is myself.
The only way to get good imagery at night from a very bright airport window is to put your camera up against the window. There goes my Embraer. And here it is parked at the gate. For the crew on board, they don't get to see Spokane at all, not even the terminal. They just park at the gate and prepare for their return to Seattle. Only the passengers from Seattle deplane and make their way for me and the others that are headed to Delta's northwestern hub.
So come along with me as I take you to Seattle. Gotta love the size of the windows on the Embraers.
Here I'm using my hand to show you how big the window is. It is fantastic. If you can fly on an Embraer 175, do it. My seat today is up in the front in the first class cabin, but every window is of equal size, so it really doesn't matter where you sit on this aircraft type. The jet bridge is being moved away for our on-time departure, and we're ready to receive clearance from ground control for pushback.
3593 Spokane ground, pushback pilot discussion information, key loads current.
We're now moving backwards by means of the tug that's attached to our nose gear. Once we come to a stop, the tug is removed and the ground crew that had been walking by our aircraft and the tug itself returned to the terminal. It's now time for taxi clearance to runway 21.
3593 Spokane ground, runway 21, taxi via Alpha.
With light departure traffic and one aircraft 5 miles from touchdown on the same runway, we were clear for takeoff within minutes.
3593 1210 runway 21, cleared for takeoff traffic, 5 mile final, Skyhawk.
For takeoff runway 21, so 35.
Once airborne, the controller on the air traffic control tower hands us off to the departure controller.
Skylar 3593, contact departure, good day.
Let's check in with the departure controller now.
Skylar 3593 is 1,000 now Spokane. 3593 Spokane departures are about Right direct Temple, maintain 125.
Right direct Temple, 1212, Dallas, 3593.
ATC has cleared us to the airspace fix of Temple, which is located near St. Andrews in Douglas County, Washington, and that point is about halfway through the flight. This is an intrastate flight, and we're only in the air for just around 40 minutes today. Temple is also part of the arrival procedure that we'll be following tonight, the Glacier 1 arrival. This flight is so short that we're cleared to affix on our arrival procedure as soon as we're in the air. Of course, there are many other flights that are coming into Seattle on the same arrival procedure from origins a lot further out, so we need to be properly sequenced in between them since we kind of just popped up into the air when most flights were already established. As a matter of fact, aircraft flying above us headed towards Seattle are already flying the Glacier 1 arrival. We just joined the procedure further down at Temple. The work of ATC. As we climb higher, we're told to contact the Seattle Air Route Traffic Control Center, the only Air Route Traffic Control Center that we'll be talking to during our short flight tonight.
3593, can I scale center 126.1, get in?
261, we'll see us guys, 3593.
I'm skipping the short en route phase of this flight and picking up further down on the Glacier 1 arrival. The routing brings us to the northeast of the Seattle metropolitan area, and we'll have to make a left-hand turn towards the south for a straight-in landing to runway 16 right. There are a lot of aircraft that come in from this direction since there's so many cities of origin across the USA with the destination of Seattle, but flights do approach from the south, west, and north. The approach controller carefully ensures that we're separated from all other arrivals from all directions before lining us up with runway 16 right. Unlike the entire flight, we can finally see some lights on the ground. Spokane is the second largest city in the state of Washington after Seattle, and in between are small towns that are under our path. Finally, there's a lot more to see here. We're about to start one of a series of left-hand turns to bring us toward the south. We continue along towards the southwest and eventually make our final turn to the south to line up with the runway. We're now established on the final approach course to runway 16 right. I don't have the ATC audio for this part, but the approach controller has cleared us for the approach and is handing us off to the air traffic control tower at the airport itself. Downtown Seattle's tall buildings will appear on the right side of the aircraft tonight. I've got a great video of that side during daylight conditions on my channel called Super Seattle Airport Approach. Don't forget to check it out. We're looking at Lake Washington here, and the bridge across it is the Evergreen Point Floating Bridge. You'd never know it's a floating bridge by looking at it from up here, but it is in fact the world's largest floating bridge. The lights in the distance on the other side of the lake represent the city of Bellevue, Washington. Bellevue is the 5th largest city in the state of Washington with a population of just over 150,000. In some ways, it acts as a suburb to Seattle. Lake Washington separates the two. Oh, and did you know that Lake Washington is a freshwater lake? Despite it being so close to Puget Sound, it's actually a separate body of water. The lake is connected to Puget Sound by means of the Lake Washington Ship Canal, but there's a lock system in place, so water cannot freely flow between the two. For now, we just continue along this side of Lake Washington over the east side of Seattle. The next bridge to cross Lake Washington is actually 2 bridges, and again, they're floating bridges. The Lacey V. Murrow Memorial Bridge and the Homer M. Hadley Memorial Bridges both carry traffic on Interstate 90. Each bridge is used for opposite direction traffic. The bridges actually connect Seattle with an island, Mercer Island, but the interstate then continues on to the east. Floating bridges are not very common, especially for roads with such heavy vehicular traffic here in Seattle. How many floating bridges are you familiar with? I don't know of any except these. As we continue along, we descend further along the glide slope. In the cockpit, the flight deck crew is making final preparations to set the aircraft up for its landing configuration, with the most obvious of this being the extension of the landing gear. This occurs while we look at the Mount Baker neighborhood out the window. Even though Mount Baker is not in this neighborhood, it's named for its view of Mount Baker. It's nighttime, so we can't see any mountains anywhere. This airport is actually known for its stunning views of Mount Rainier seen from the other side of the airport, but since it's dark out and mountains aren't illuminated, the sky just blends in with the terrain at night. Night flying can be very deceiving. It's important for those flying aircraft to always be able to keep an eye out for obstructions as well as air traffic. All aircraft have lights on them at night to help them be identified by other aircraft, and this is a high air traffic area with numerous flights going to and from SeaTac. And there's an airport located right on the final approach, Boeing Field. I love passing over this airport while sitting on the left side of the airplane, and coming into runway 16 right allows enough distance for us to see a good portion of the airport from up here. If we were to land on runway 16 left, we'd be further to the east and would see less of the airport. The runways at Boeing Field are offset to the runways at SeaTac, so they don't interfere too much with SeaTac flights, but the close proximity does create traffic issues at times. The remainder of the approach is over a primarily residential area, and views are similar on both sides of the aircraft at this point. We're just a few miles north of runway 16 right. We're headed towards the outboard runway tonight. 3 parallel runways exist at our destination airport, and our runway is considered the outboard runway as it's the furthest away from the terminal area. This also means that we'll have to cross 2 runways upon landing to get to the terminal. Tonight, at the time of my arrival, runway 16 left was being used as the departure runway, and runway 16 center was inactive at the time. Having parallel runways makes for a very efficient operation, and there are times when even aircraft that are arriving will land on the departure runway. There's some room for moving flights around with a configuration like this. If the 16s aren't being used, the 34s or the same runways in the opposite direction will be used. It just depends on which direction the winds are blowing. Whatever direction provides the most headwind will usually be chosen for arrivals and departures. In my recent video called I Flew a 757-300 to Kona, Here's My Story, I explained how the airport handles changing direction from landing and departing on the 16s to landing and departing on the 34s. It's complex and must be carefully orchestrated, but tonight the winds are steady and everyone can keep going in the same direction until the last flights of the night. 8,500 feet of runway 16 right is directly in front of us. Let's land. As we slow down, the tower controller asks us to clear the runway and hold short of the runway right next to us, the center runway, runway 16 center. Let's listen into that transmission.
Go 3593, exit out Papa for traffic behind you.
Papa's got it, 3593.
Go 3593, thanks. Hold short running 16 center and monitor 199. Good night.
Hold short of center, monitor 1999. Good job.
Once the controller verifies that everything is clear on runway 16 center, he asks us to cross this runway.
Go 3593, cross runway 16 center, hold short runway 16 left.
Tower cross 16 center, hold short of 16 left, down 3593.
On board. Check for iPhones, iPads,
And remember, there are 3 parallel runways here at SeaTac. The final runway that we need to cross is runway 16 left. Now the controller is going to ask us to cross runway 16 left because the path is now clear.
Go 3593, cross 16 left. I have Papa, right turn Bravo to spot 99, contact top ramp.
Alright, cross the left, right to spot 99,
We're all set to taxi into the ramp area without even speaking to ground control. Our flight is nearly over and we'll be at the gate momentarily. Well, I hope you enjoyed this explanatory video. My videos look at aviation from an airspace and air traffic perspective from the point of view of an ordinary passenger. Check out my other videos, including some right here in Seattle. If you want to get alerted as to when I post something new, I invite you to click on the subscribe button. And don't forget to like this video too. Thanks everyone.
Thanks for flying with us
Thank you very much.